Okay, got my coffee, got some more thoughts to share with you all today about teaching. Hopefully, this is helpful. So, here's a question that I was asked a while back. What is the most important thing you teach? Now, I teach nursing, you may teach something else. And so I thought about this question for a little bit, and I thought this is easy, right? The question, though, I think is a little bit deceptive. It seems like it would be an easy question to answer on its face. Of course, the most important thing that I teach is, yeah. I could not answer that question. It was so hard. At least not initially, but I've given it some more thought. So, not so easy to answer after all, but I think it's more like one of the most important questions a teacher might be asked. There's no way we can cover every topic or skill, even in very, very specialized courses. Knowledge about the world, especially science, continues to expand at an exponential pace. Knowing that we can't cover everything, we have to prioritize, right? So, what is the most important thing to cover in our classes? How do we set those priorities? One skill that I think expert teachers use really well is that priority setting. And it's great to be able to say what's important, but even more so, it's great to develop the skill of saying, what can I let go of, right? Or your students will just be overwhelmed. Sometimes less is more, oftentimes less is more. So, how do we set those priorities about what we're going to do in our classrooms? We have to have some sort of goal or standard in mind, otherwise, everything seems important. Every teacher has to filter the potential content very deliberately using your expert perspective, right? So, you're the expert, you have to filter what you think is most critical for your students to take away. However, I think the most important thing that we teach goes even beyond choosing content. I would argue that every teacher, regardless of discipline or topic, has to aim to teach one vital thing. Every teacher teaches the same thing. It is the most important thing. That one thing is the skill of learning. Yes, as teachers, our major goal in every class should be to teach or develop more deeply the students' learning skills. See, it's not about the content. The content at that point is not really even that important. You can give them a flavor of your discipline or profession, give them some really critical things, but if you're not teaching your students how to learn inside of your discipline and with your discipline's particular um, frame of mind, you're really not helping them in the long run. If, as a teacher, you're able to show your student how to learn in more and more complex and sophisticated ways, then you're setting them up to tackle any content in any discipline and in any context. That is what being a teacher is all about. There is, of course, an underlying assumption here that learning is a skill that can be developed and not some kind of inherent individual trait. And I believe that to my core. So, is learning a skill that can be learned? Yes or no? We see that humans are natural explorers and learners as we observe even very young children. Some learning skills are a natural part of growth and development. However, I do believe there is a point at which natural development gives way to deliberately acquired and practiced skills. We don't naturally develop the ability to take notes, to synthesize information in written or oral communication. We don't naturally develop the ability to critique the information that we encounter through a scientific or professional lens, right? For most teachers at the high school or college level, our students have certainly entered the phase of learning as an acquired and practiced set of skills versus the natural development phase. I would say a lot of elementary teachers, I know you don't have it easy, but in this regard, it is easy because your students, especially in lower elementary grades, are really excited about exploring their world and they are just soaking up information all over the place because they're naturally inclined to explore the world around them. It's a little bit harder when students get older. They have more sophisticated skills. You're not dealing with the behavioral issues as much, but you have to be able to develop those more sophisticated skills. even further. So, right here, I want to mention a book which I love, Carol Dweck's book, Mindset, The New Psychology of Success. You may have heard of that. In that book, Dweck argues that people approach life or even individual tasks with one of two mindsets. Either we have a fixed mindset, which drives us to thinking that skills or traits are inherent and can't be changed very much, or we have a growth mindset that views skill development as something that can be accomplished through effort, failure, and feedback. In some ways, if, as teachers, we believe that learning is an inherent trait rather than a set of acquired and practiced skills, we have fallen into that fixed mindset category. Those with a fixed mindset often find themselves limited, less effective, and less successful than those with a growth mindset. So I'm not really interested in being limited or ineffective. So I choose to see learning on the whole through a growth mindset. All right, after that little sidebar, back to the main topic of teaching our students how to learn. I want to spend some time later on as we move through. I'll deliver some more content here, um, talking about this kind of thing. So, how do you get students to learn how to learn? In my teaching, every content related task, case study, writing assignment, research project, whatever, also has an underlying learning how to learn objective. So, to understand this method, it's important to look at 5 broad skills that make up the skill of learning. So, the first one is information intake. So, we have to teach students how to take in information effectively. The second skill is information analysis. So, how do we teach them? Think about how do we teach students to take, after they've got the information, to pull it together, to think about critically what's true, what's not true, where does this piece fit, how does it all work together. And then the third skill would be information summary. So that's taking everything that they've learned and summarizing it. Fourth skill would be information synthesis. So that's taking everything that they've learned and then synthesizing it into a really succinct and clear statement of understanding. Like being able to explain it to your grandma, right? Being able to explain your iPhone to your grandma is information synthesis, right? And then the fifth stage is creation. Now, a lot of our students in high school may or may not get here. College, we should be really working towards this fifth stage of creation, which is they take everything that they've learned about a topic or a subject area, and then they use that to create some brand new thing. So acquiring and practicing these 5 micro skills will allow your students to develop the overall skill of learning. If students are able to master these 5 steps and then practice them in a variety of contexts, they will essentially be set up to learn any content in any discipline in any context. So again, in future posts, I'm going to work through each of these 5 learning micro skills, discuss them a little bit about what I mean regarding each one of those micro skills, and some ideas for how to structure assignments to teach each of those things. Okay, so back to the beginning. What's the most important thing you teach? It's teaching your students how to learn. When you realize that you can teach students how to consume information, learn, and solve their own problems without you feeding them information or detailed steps, then it will set you free. You will be free from that feeling of being overwhelmed by content bloat and the pressure to tell them everything. If students know how to learn, you don't have to tell them everything because you set them up to discover everything on their own. All right, go out there, teach. I'll be nursing, you can too, and definitely excel.